Welcome to the HCI family of podcasts. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We share our own original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. Join us for practitioner-oriented content around all things leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with the HCI family of podcasts. Jenny Esposito, welcome to the conversation today.
Hi, John. Thank you so much for having me on.
It's a pleasure to be with you. You're joining us from the Bay Area. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about successful people and culture operations in the home building industry. We talk a lot about people and culture, HR, organizational leadership topics. I think talking about that within home building and construction industry, more specifically, is something we haven't done a whole lot of. So I'm excited to talk about this with you and unpack this also really from the perspective of female leadership and the experience of women in the home building industry also is a bit unique. And so I'm excited to get that perspective from you as well. As we get started, I wanted to share Jenny's bio with everybody. Jenny Esposito is the Director of People and Culture at TrueMark Homes. In her role, she leads the company's human resources and corporate culture efforts, including talent acquisition, performance management, compensation, compliance, and benefits, as well as team building and staff development. She has more than a decade of diverse experience in leading and managing all functions of human resources across several industries. And I could say a whole lot more about Jenny and her background, but I'm going to pause there. Jenny, anything you would like to highlight by way of your background or personal context before we dive on in?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for that intro, John. I'm grateful and I appreciate it. A little bit about me, and I love to throw it back. So besides the people and culture and what I do professionally, what's so important is kind of who I am and where I came from. So I'm a Midwest gal at heart from Madison, Wisconsin. And I feel like that foundation has kind of really helped shape how I look at people and evaluate situations. At TrueMark, they have the Director of People and Culture, but they also have Jenny Esposito, the mom of two sons, the dog mom of three dogs and three different sizes. We have a Great Dane, a Chihuahua Pug mix, and a Black Lab. And, all those things kind of go into who I am. So we'll leave it right there and dig more into it as our conversation progresses.
Yeah, well, excellent. Thank you. And as a father and of children, but also of two dogs of different sizes, I can appreciate the diverse experiences that these different facets of our life bring to the mix. So we are people operations folks, but we also we wear multiple hats, don't we? And we bring all of that into our experiences. All right, as we dive on in, why don't you start by telling us a little bit more about TrueMark Homes and specifically, but then also just kind of more about the home building industry more generally, because I think a lot of those in the audience, they're familiar with people and culture, they're familiar with HR, but they're not familiar with it from within the context of that industry.
Absolutely. So TrueMark Homes, the company that I work for, has been around for over 35 years now. We started in the Bay Area and we've grown. We've had really exciting growth. We've grown to Southern California. We started organically in Denver, Colorado, and just recently acquired a division in Central California. So we build home environments, and we build in a variety of different areas and spaces. And back a couple years back, we were acquired by Daiwa House, who is our founding company located over in Japan. You don't just get a normal home when you go with TrueMark. You get an environment. We really look at the whole picture and how we build spaces that help people gather and areas where you can come and, call that space home. And that whole concept, that whole foundation of the space you call home, and I'm bringing it in for a landing here, you feel across all different areas within our business, whether you're a customer of TrueMark, whether you're an employee that walks through our door. Um, it's it's really it's more of a feeling with the company, and it all stems back to the environment that nurtures and fosters growth. So that's a little bit about the company. And we've recently, since I've started in 2022, we've grown from around 115 employees to now 330. And we're continuing to grow. We're looking to expand up and down the West Coast, and it's very exciting times for our company.
Well, that's super exciting. And growth is always challenging, regardless of the industry that you're in. And you're in the Bay Area. So a lot of times we focus on tech sector growth, right? And the ups and downs in that labor market. And I've talked on this podcast, we've talked a lot with different tech companies and the ebbs and flows in the labor market and the layoffs and all of these sorts of things. There's so many challenges with growth. But those same challenges apply when you're talking about growth in any sort of company. So even in home building and the construction industries, growth is hard because anytime you're scaling, anytime you're growing, anytime there's acquisitions, you're trying to bring in people. You're trying to mold a culture. You're trying to adapt. And all of that brings with it. I mean, it's not like you're starting with a clean slate across the board. That would still be hard to create a really good, healthy culture with us starting from a clean slate, but you're not. You're starting with like everyone bringing their own stuff and their own baggage
Mhm.
and trying to create a healthy culture from that. Um, Talk a little bit about that because you talked about having, a healthy culture, an inclusive culture, one where everyone wants to come work. And also, even if we bring it in from kind of the female perspective, um, you know, a home building industry that's probably more predominantly male, trying to create an environment where you're making it welcoming and inviting to also the female demographic. Like, how do you do that in a scaling environment, when culture is just a hard nut to crack in any environment?
Yeah, that is an excellent question. And I like to take that back to the foundations that the company is built on, and looking at how TrueMark started, who started TrueMark, and taking it back to the two founders of our company, Michael Maples and Greg Nelson. And when they sat down, and first of all, if you meet the two humans, you will enjoy your conversation with them, and you'll also see the synergy that they have together, the friendship, the fact that they've known each other since their college days and raised their families near each other and started this company with their own blood, sweat, and tears. Honestly, like they worked hard to build TrueMark, and they know what it's like to have up years, down years. They're very organic and open about sharing their experiences. But bringing this in for a landing, what was really important to them was to establish clear values and core competencies when designing what TrueMark was going to be. And everything from the homes that we build, the environments we create, and making sure that that is felt in the office as well. So, kind of those moments in between where when you look to set up a workspace, do you have a place to gather? Do you have a place that folks can feel comfortable sharing experiences and fostering communication? Um, Kind of switching gears a bit and looking at how our company looks at wellness. And I like to say wellness as a word that we try to embrace. And one of my personal mantras, and I will tell this to you while I'm having an interview with you. I'll remind you of it. If I can tell in your eye, you're looking a little intense. We should all be working to live, not living to work. And I don't always follow that advice, and my husband will be the
Mm.
first to tell you I should more, but I try, and I have it going through my head pretty constantly these days. how do we create this environment and this thought in people's heads where you're working to live, not living to work? So what TrueMark does that I think is incredibly unique, and this is something that came from the founders, and I have just had the honor of embracing it and communicating about it. We have a benefit called our TrueMark 150. And what this means is day one, John, you enter into TrueMark and I welcome you and everything. And you've probably been at a workplace before where someone says, okay, John, hey, guess what? We got a fitness center down the street, 19 bucks off, go knock yourself out, right?
Yep.
Well, I mean, you're talking to me. I've got 3 dogs, 2 kids. I'm super busy. I'm working when I'm home, it's family time. That doesn't quite fit into my little slot of what, wellness is, what works for me. So the founder said, who knows you better than you? So what they designed with this program is everyone, day one, they get 150 bucks a month and they can use it towards their own personal wellness.
Hmm.
So people use it towards national park memberships. I used it towards a piece of exercise equipment. We see people getting a massage, joining a gym. This is one of those fun benefits that, we say, hey, we want you to focus on yourself and the best
Mhm.
version of yourself. And what can we do to help support it? So that is something tangible that TrueMark does for every single employee. And it's a benefit that is well loved by the entire staff. And
Can I
it's
ask about
also,
that?
yeah, go ahead.
Um, so I'm curious, is that just, earmarked in the paycheck, an extra 150 a month, with no strings attached, or like someone you have to
Mhm.
submit like a receipt, or like how does that play out? Because
Yeah.
I like that. I like the flexibility of that because, like you said, we've all been in those organizations where like get a free gym membership or whatever, and like I don't want to
Mhm.
go to the gym and work out in front of people or or whatever, like some things are just salient to some people and not to other people, and so having flexibility with wellness programs or any sort of benefit that you provide is super important. So how do you like structure that?
That's a great question. So people, they do submit their receipts and reimburse for it. And we have like a general outline of what you can use that benefit for. Um, it has to fit kind of within overall wellness. I mean, we all love
Mm-hmm.
every once in a while grabbing a beer after work. That would not qualify for our wellness benefit. But, every once in a while, so there is some like gentle guidelines in the human resources department. We are proud to rock that benefit, manage it, and help make sure that people get paid out for it. And it's also fun to celebrate. We quarterly will do kind of decks where we show people will submit pictures of how they're using their TrueMark 150. So, one of my favorites looking back on it is a gentleman who would go and get a mani-pedi with his daughter, and that was his thing. And he was so
Yeah.
proud to do that and share that with this human. And so that is a really cool benefit. Another thing that I find incredibly unique with this company, endearing and lovely, and it goes back to my Midwest roots, is we listen.
Mm.
And I've helped to craft and build an HR department where that's just part of who we are. So when it comes to benefits, what's working, what's not, we listen and we encourage employees to share with us. And we can't always fix something, renegotiate, but sometimes we can. And I'll share a little success, and it just kind of resulted from listening. It was a couple years back, and I'd had a few employees say, "Hey, guess what? My children use our orthodontist of benefit, and why don't we have that for adults? I mean, I want to get my teeth fixed. I'm turning 45 and this is my thing. And I want to do this." And I said, that's a great question. And
Mm.
I took note and I asked our benefits broker, and guess what? TrueMark now offers, and I'm going to totally just spill the beans with this, and probably everyone else is going to ask now. We now offer a benefit for adult orthodontics. And guess what? There was no additional charge to us. We just asked.
Nice.
So we listen. I think that goes back to my Midwest roots. Again, I keep coming back to that about not being afraid to listen, to ask, and to get scrappy. I like that word. You know, we get in there and we like talking to our employees. And all of those things, they go into creating kind of what I'd say is a safe space for employees to be in. And going back to one of your other themes about how do you attract people to work in your work environment, women in
Yeah.
construction. I mean, I worked for a
Yeah.
general contractor for years, and before coming to TrueMark, a great company as well. What I have found is it starts with the space you've created, because if you have a work environment that is authentic and you lead with wellness and you have humans that, honestly, we call it the Jenny sniff test. Would you want to go get a cup of coffee with them, right? You have humans that work in your space that you'd want to go grab a cup of coffee with. They attract other humans that bring that same type of energy, and it's not something you have to force. So there are little things, though, that I thought when I was looking at how to grow this department and what I could do to help the management team, because some of this stuff, the people stuff, engaging, it comes easier to others than some. And, you all come from different walks of life. And
Yeah.
so I thought, what can I do to really help this population? And we do have what we call as a milestone recognition program. And one little thing I did that has had a huge impact was this program we implemented that on your birthday, you get an email from the company. It doesn't matter who you are, how long you've been at the company. And it says, hey, happy birthday. We're so glad you're here. I hope today's a great one. And I think there's a quote from Dr. Seuss, because I happen to love children's literature. And that has landed on so many levels. One, I don't know if you've ever had this happen to you, but how awful do you feel when you're having a conversation with someone or a meeting and it's their birthday? And you may have like 40 people on your team, you may have 100, and you do your best and you just forget. And to have that in place for our team so that, if you're having one of those moments, at least your team member woke up to that email from TrueMark. There's a fun little perk too where they can either pick out a gift right away or donate to a charity too. So it's something
Yeah.
tangible. And I've actually had a few experiences where, people have called me and said, hey, you guys were the only one. You're the only one that remembered. And I said, well, happy birthday to you. And they know if they do call, then they're going to be sung to. So some of them choose not to, but some of them will appreciate that. So it kind of all goes back to what we're trying to build and what type of environment attracts the people you want to have on your team.
And that's the bottom line. I mean, that's what we all want. We want great people on our teams. We want a great, healthy, dynamic environment where people are excited to come to work. I mean, not everyone, nobody loves everything they do at work every day all the time. Like we all have things that we have to do that we don't love, or that aspect of your job that you kind of have to slog through. Everyone has those things, but you try to create an environment where we can be supportive of each other in those things. And so if we all have to, like, I think of like the show The Office, and there are so many like bad examples of like what not to do in that show. But like one of the things that would often happen is like quarterly, they would have to, I don't even remember what it was, but they'd have to like do quarterly closeout reports or whatever. And so once every quarter, they'd have to stay late and like fill out all these forms or whatever. And it was a miserable job. Nobody liked to do it, but they would make sure that they stuck together. They would do it together, and then they'd go get drinks afterwards or something like that, right?
Mhm.
Nobody likes to do it, but just like make sure that you do it in a way that everyone feels supported and that you're part of a workplace community together as you do it. And hopefully,
There you go.
most of what we do is stuff that we like to do and that we are good at and that bring meaning and purpose to us. So maybe it's an 80-20 kind of a split or a 70-30 kind of a split. We can't always do what we love, but hopefully we do a lot of what we love. But when we can't, let's do it together. Let's do it in a way that we can find fulfillment together. I think of it just like at home. Like, I don't love cleaning toilets. I don't love sweeping up the garage. I don't love doing the laundry, but I do those things because I have to help out around the house. Like my kids do
Mhm.
chores. They don't love doing the chores. Nobody likes, I mean, I guess some people probably like doing yard work, but I don't think anyone in my family loves doing yard work or like pulling weeds, but we got to do it. Someone's got to do it. And so we try to make it as fun as possible and we make a game out of it and we do it together. And when you do that, everyone's lifting together, I guess is my point. And that
Yeah.
makes all the difference in the world.
Absolutely. And I think one thing that I would just love to talk to you about too is the whole interview process and how you attract those types of humans to come into your company, right? Because you love to say it's your network. Oh, my network's fantastic. I can get anyone to work for me because of my network, this, that, and the other. But kind of circling this back to the initial conversation and who has that conversation with the person you're trying to bring into your company, right? And how do you, so I spent a lot of time talking to you about Trumer culture, and a lot of it's a feeling too when you're in our workspace. And John, I'd like to invite you, if you ever find yourself in the Bay, let's go grab a cup of coffee. I'd love to show
Awesome.
you Trumark and you can actually experience this. But when it comes to that interview, I'm a bit quirky, I'd say, on how I approach it. And what I am looking for, if we have an interview with each other, I actually don't like that word. I call it a conversation. And I'll often lead with that too. Especially if I can tell a candidate's a little nervous or,
Yeah.
what does she want me to say? And I don't want them to say what they think I want them to say. I want them to share who they are so we can both assess mutually if this is a good fit for them.
Yeah.
And what we've started doing is training our managers, and some are better than others, and everyone comes from different backgrounds on really, throwing it back and putting them in their shoes. Remember your first interview. How did that person make you feel? And so I'll often lead with saying, thank you for having this conversation with me. It's so good to see you. How's it going? And some kind of an icebreaker. And then I'll just say, what brought you here today? Tell me your story. And that usually the person will start going through their resume, how they came to this position, and I'm kind of taking notes, but a lot of times we're on a Teams call and I'm watching them and I'm just seeing, okay, how they doing? And then we'll kind of we'll dig a little deeper and I'll ask a few of the questions around, you know, um, what appealed to you about this job? What type of work environment are you looking for? But then I come in with my favorite question. And everyone on my team knows that they must ask this question. And I'll look this person in the eye and John, I'll ask you this question right now. Um, what makes you you? So I try to operate by the philosophy of we work to live, we don't live to work.
Hmm.
When you're not working, because I hope for you, you're not working 24/7. What makes you you? What do you like to do on the weekends? What book you reading? Tell me about you.
Yeah, and for me, it's really my family. I'm married 22, almost 23 years, six children, two dogs, and I everything I do is for my wife and my kids. And so the hobbies that I have usually revolve around my family in some way. The time I spend outside of work, it revolves around my family. And so my work is to support that life. And like you said, I hopefully I have a good life work harmony and balance, and so that the two kind of work well together.
Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that. So that question is one of those questions that goes into this whole wellness factor, right? And how are we attempting to create inspiring work environments that have humans, have our employees feel like this is a place they want to stay at for a long time? I recently listened to a podcast where they were talking about what retains an employee, and you asked some of the C-suite and they said, "Oh, this person left because they got so much more money and I couldn't match that, and they just had to go." And then you actually ask the employee and they say, "I didn't have a connection with that team or my manager. They didn't seem to even really care if I came in or not." And it's those little things. That's what plants that seed to make it grow. And looking back on my career now, and it's so funny saying looking back on my career now, I am really proud of all of the employees, the humans that I've touched throughout the different companies that I've worked with, and seen how they've grown and seen how they've, blossomed from an intern to, in some cases, some of them have passed me over, and that's just fantastic. I mean, what a testament
Yeah,
to
yeah,
someone in a role. A lot of them are project managers, senior project managers, and they always say, once we're kind of under your wing, we're under your wing for life. And I love being on LinkedIn because I can keep tabs on all these people. And I think that's really what it comes down to when you're in a people and culture role, and that's your position in a company, whether it's in construction, tech, retail, education, whatever it is. Hopefully you really like working with people and that fills your cup up.
yeah.
Because if you don't, and you're the type of HR professional where the door is closed, the head is down, and you're not approachable, and that kind of sets the tone too for what that looks like with your company. So, yeah, that's kind of how TrueMark sets up its people and culture group for the company, and bringing it in for a landing too. It was very important to the founders of the company, Michael Maples and Greg Nelson, that my title be Director of People and Culture. They did not want it to be Human Resources Manager, Director, whatever. Director of People and Culture. We lead with what our company values are. Right there on the title.
Jenny, this has just been a really, really great conversation. I know at the time I need to let you go, but before we wrap things up, I wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, how they can find out more about your work, your team, where they can find out more about your company, and then give us the final word on the topic for today.
Sure. Well, thank you. So the best place to connect with me is probably over LinkedIn. That's where I have a strong social presence for our company. And I would say the final word of the day is challenge yourself to work to live, not live to work.
I love it. Well said. I think if we could all do that, the world would be a much happier place.
I can say it. Now, can I follow it? We're
I
working on
know.
me. I am a
I
work in
know.
progress. I'll be the first to tell you that.
It's hard. It's hard because we do work we love. And
Mhm.
my wife tells me this all the time. She's like, you ask me like what I do when I'm not at work. And I don't work all the time. And
Yeah.
I think I was authentic and sincere when I said my family.
Yeah.
But it's hard because I do love my work. And so sometimes it is hard to set it aside. And I feel strongly about the work that I do. And I feel like it's important and it matters and I can help people, etc. And so sometimes my wife is like, John, you just need more hobbies. Like you just like put your work down and like whatever. And so it's a work in progress for me too. I fully acknowledge like I need to sometimes have better balance. And but on the other hand, I'm like, I'm really glad I do stuff that I love. And so
Yeah.
let's all look for things that we love. Constantly seek for that balance, and ultimately, let's hopefully we can find it, right? And that's the best we can hope for. So Jenny, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, get connected, find out more about what Jenny and her team can do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the podcast. We hope you stay healthy and safe, and please join us again soon.